obscure city is a place where you can find many unique dangers. This is where she works, Cassandra Killjoy, paranormal private eye. Now a teenage girl's father has gone missing, and Killjoy believes that the city's enigmatic protector, the swordsman, is the key to finding him. So Killjoy must face many deadly dangers in her search for the swordsman. Available on Amazon.com.
Even extraordinary cartoons can have extraordinarily bad episodes, and when that happens, you get InepToons. First things first, I just want to thank all of you for the ridiculous amount of enthusiasm towards this video series, and for all your suggestions for future videos. Fun fact, the very first request that I got was for Jubilee's Fairytale Theater. Even funner fact, I had always planned for Jubilee's Fairytale Theater to be the second episode in this series. This was always going to be the second episode. That's how notoriously bad this episode is. Now, for those of you who have only experienced Jubilee through X-Men 97, I just want to say that I envy you, as that show did a magnificent job as portraying her as a competent hero with a distinct voice and a distinct role within the group dynamic. The original X-Men cartoon, not so much. In the original series, Jubilee is introduced as the audience surrogate for the two-part pilot. But after that, she's just there. She is the most ineffectual, incompetent, superfluous character on the show.
What's she gonna do? Hit me with her diaper?
So how did this episode happen? Well, for those of you who don't know, the creators had every intention of ending the show with Season 4, with the epic 4-part episode Beyond Good and Evil. But unfortunately, X-Men the Animated Series was a victim of its own success, as the show was so huge that Fox Kids ordered another season, completely derailing the creators' plans to end the series with a bang. So not only were the creators going into Season 5 without a solid plan, but that was the same year that Marvel started to go bankrupt. Half of the creative team left the show, and producer Avi Arad cut the budget in half, which is the reason why the animation during this season wasn't as good as the previous 4. So, suffice it to say, Season 5 was not good. In fact, I only feel comfortable recommending 2 episodes from this season. Old Soldiers, in which Wolverine teams up with Captain America during World War II, and the series finale, Graduation Day. Other than that, the episodes range from mediocre to bad. I tell you this so you understand the gravity of my words when I tell you that during a season where almost every episode was bad, Jubilee's Fairytale Theater was still the worst episode. So let's jump into this dumpster fire ignited by fireworks. Fanboys and fangirls, from X-Men, this is Jubilee's Fairytale Theater. So the episode begins with something we've never seen before in the series. Children actually being educated at Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters. In this case, we find Jubilee, of all people, giving the kids an educational tour of the caverns that run under the school. The kids have some relevant questions.
What kind of school does Professor Xavier run?
Well, it's kind of experimental.
I bet you get to do some really rad things.
Yeah, no. Anyway, it's only 3 minutes into the episode, so it's about time for a flashback. And thus, we find out why one of the more popular or competent X-Men is not in charge of this tour. And for those of you wondering why Gambit doesn't sound like Gambit,
I'm not as patient as you.
that's because in this episode, he was voiced by Tony Daniels, not Chris Potter, because he had a scheduling conflict with Kung Fu The Legend Continues. So there you go. Anyway, the reason why Jubilee got stuck giving the tour is because Professor Xavier has a meeting with the president. Why does he need Gambit and Wolverine to speak to the president? No time to explain, gotta go! Furthermore, why can't Rogue, Jean, Scott, Storm, Beast, or someone more intelligent and capable give the tour? No time to explain, flash forward.
Miss Lee?
Back in the cavern, Jubes and the kids experience an earthquake in upstate New York? Sure, whatever. So there's a small cave-in, and the entrance to the cave gets blocked. So they're trapped. Yup, Jubilee led a group of children into a cavern that had only one exit. Sadly, on the Jubilee screw-up scale, this is only a 6. Anyway, Jubes does what she does best when she's in trouble, and call the other X-Men. But this time, she contacts them with a beeper?
A SATCOM 2000 digital beeper?
Well, excuse the hell out of me, kid. Now, for those of you who don't know what a beeper is, it's basically a phone on which you can only receive texts of phone numbers of people who want you to call them on an actual phone. Now, if that sounds like antiquated technology, that's because it is. In fact, it was already antiquated technology back in 1996 when this episode first aired. And that is what the X-Men gave to Jubilee to call them if she was in trouble. A beeper! Anyway, while Jubes and the kids wait for the actual heroes to show up and save them, the pyrotechnic princess decides to tell the kids a story to distract them from the imminent danger.
A scary one? With lots of fighting and monsters?
Fencing, fighting, torture, revenge, giants, monsters, chases, escapes, true love.
Love? Yuck!
So the Fairytale theater kicks off with a quick epilogue in which Jubilee establishes a magical kingdom that is ruled by a handsome prince named Scott and a fair princess named Jean, and that the greatest treasure in this enchanted land is the McTaggart crystal, a gem of unfathomable power that was split in half to prevent its use. One half is missing, while the other half is in the possession of the most powerful sorcerer in all the land, Magnus the Malevolent.
Everybody got that?
The actual story begins with Gambit the Rogue, nope, not that rogue, being chased by some of Magnus's metalmen when he runs into some peasants that suspiciously look a lot like Longshot and Jubilee's foster parents. But never mind that, this man needs a place to hide. Luckily, Jubilee's foster mom offers a solution.
Would you like to have a roll in the hay?
But no time for that, as combat has been initiated, and it's time to roll initiative. Well, that was embarrassing.
Can no one help us?
Well, luckily for her, the most badass mother trucker in all the land has arrived. Juba freaking Lee. You know, Jubilee is immune to poisonous snakes, but poisonous snakes are not immune to Jubilee. Jubilee doesn't do push-ups, she pushes the world down. Jubilee doesn't wear Wonder Woman pajamas, Wonder Woman wears Jubilee pajamas.
How come you get to be the hero?
Good freaking question.
'Cause it's my story.
But that's cheating.
No, son, that is narcissism. Kids, can you say narcissism? Good, I knew you could.
I don't like that noise.
It's okay. Caves always do stuff like this. Hey, you guys...
Back in the story, an extremely lucky metal man survives Jubilee's onslaught by fleeing, but unfortunately runs right into Logan the Troll. However, Jubilee's traveling companion makes her foster dad very nervous.
He may look disgusting, but his heart is brave and true.
Oh my freaking god. This is what Jubilee thinks of her best friend, the man who has risked his life for her more times than anyone else.
He may look disgusting, but his heart is brave and true.
Jubes, are you sure that Logan's the one who's supposed to be the troll? So, Jubilee and Logan question Gambit to find out why the metalmen were chasing him. He responds by hitting on Jubilee.
Fair warrior, I could show you so many things.
This is a 30-year-old man hitting on a 17-year-old girl. This is Jubilee's fantasy. And I know what some of you are thinking. Erod, this is just a fantasy. It's harmless. And to those of you, I would like to remind that this is the fantasy that she chose to share with a bunch of kids. I would also like to take this moment to point out that Rogue, Storm, and Beast are noticeably absent from this fantasy. Yes, the most desirable, the most powerful, and the smartest X-Men do not exist in this universe. Because in this universe, Jubilee is the most desirable, the most powerful, and the smartest. Yeah, stick that in your pipe and smoke it. So after Logan cock-blocks Gambit, the Master Thief explains that Magnus hired him to steal the missing half of the McTaggart crystal. But after Gambit acquired it, he realized that if Magnus had both halves, he would be invincible. So he opted to hide it instead. So the Metal Men were chasing him to get it back. Gambit then agrees to take Jubilee and Logan to the crystal because of reasons. Cut to the next scene. Gambit takes our heroes to the Cavern of the Lost, which is the secret entrance of the stronghold of the Guild of Thieves, which is where he hid the missing half of the crystal. Unfortunately, our heroes were tailed by Sabretooth, the furry, and some more Metal Men. Jubilee politely suggests for them to call an ambulance, but not for her. You know, Jubilee doesn't read books. She intimidates them until they give her the information that she wants. Jubilee doesn't check under the bed for the boogeyman. The boogeyman checks under the bed for Jubilee. One time, Death had a near Jubilee experience. Oh, and by the way, this is Sabretooth's last appearance on the show. Not having a final epic showdown with Wolverine, but receiving the most humiliating ass-kicking from Juba freaking Lee. Yeah, let that sink in for a moment. Anyway, back in the cave, there's another earthquake. So Jubes pauses the story and checks on the cavern entrance, where she discovers that water is starting to pour in. So she lies to the kids and tells them that they should explore the cave more. They move to higher ground, and then she shoots down more rocks to seal herself and the kids in a different section of the cavern. Wait a minute! She can shoot down rocks from the cavern ceiling, but she can't shoot through the rocks that are blocking the exit? Oh, Jubilee, you're so dumb. And no need to figure out another way to get the kids to safety. She has a totally radical story to finish. So the adventuring party exits the Cavern of the Lost, only to be contacted by Xavier the All-Knowing, who's apparently not very knowing about cultural appropriation. Good old-fashioned 90s racism.
He's the one wizard that even Magnus can't get his hands on.
So why isn't he fighting Magnus then? No time to explain, as Xavier has 100 pounds of exposition to dump. So, according to Zombie here, the only thing that can destroy Magnus is the reassembled McTaggart crystal. And the only one who can reactivate the crystal is a hero with the strength of Lou Ferrigno, the genius of Bill Nye, and the hypnotic beauty of Cindy Crawford. Luckily, there's a hero present who's overqualified, because under Jubilee's shades, there's no forehead. There's just another fist. So Gambit leads our heroes to the secret entrance into Magnus's castle.
The vault is over there. How come you know so much about this? It is my job.
Yeah, that tracks. So they break into Magnus's vault, Gambit swipes the other half of the crystal and gives it to Jubilee.
It's showtime.
Get it? Because Allison Court, who plays Jubilee, also plays Lydia Deeds on Beetlejuice, and "It's Showtime" is Beetlejuice's catchphrase? Easter eggs, they got them. Magnus, of course, knows that they broke into his vault because, you know, he lives there, and demands Jubilee put the crystal back together again, or he will torture Logan with toothpaste, I think? Anyway, Jubes has no choice but to assemble the crystal with her fireworks, because apparently this is how Jubilee thinks fireworks work. But after she assembles the crystal, Magnus still refuses to release Logan. Apparently, Jubilee forgot that he's a bad guy and bad guys lie. And apparently Magnus forgot that one time Chuck Norris tried to kick Jubilee, but broke his foot when he accidentally struck her ovaries of titanium. Jubes shoots Magnus with a continuous stream of fireworks, and this somehow turns him into a magnet, and he attracts all the metal items in the room until he is crushed under them. I would like to take this moment to remind everyone that this woman lives in a school. Anywho, so Magnus is dead? Does this mean that Jubilee has the power of a god now? Who knows? As her story is mercifully interrupted by the actual heroes of the show showing up to save her. Again.
Okay, gang. Last one in is a troll dick.
Hi, kid. I'm Wolf.
Logan! Yeah, I know! The troll!
And little Tommy was never seen again. Later, Jubilee serves the kids some delicious cocoa moo while they wait for the bus to pick them up. But the kids really want her to finish the story because they are masochists. And so, with Magnus destroyed, the kingdom is restored, and Prince Scott and Princess Jean decide to honor Jubilee. What the hell was that? I hope Catherine Disher was okay when she was recording this, cause she sounds like she was having either a really good time or a really bad time, or both. So to thank Jubilee for saving the day, they offer to make her a princess, because that is how monarchy works. But that would require like study and responsibility and work and stuff, and that's like really hard. So Jubes ditches the people that are trying to reward her with a life of leisure and power to go adventuring with the perv and the disgusting troll. The end. Back in the real world, the kids head out as they express their desire to come back and listen to more of Jubilee's stories, because apparently they don't own TVs or Nintendos. The X-Men compliment Jubilee on handling the situation so well. But Jubes has no time for compliments, as she has to go wash up. But instead of going into the mansion to do so, she goes in the opposite direction and just runs through the woods like a crazy person. The actual end. Oh my freaking god, is this episode bad! This is a show that is famous for its brilliant social-political racial commentary and its mind-blowing sci-fi. And this episode has neither. Instead, it miraculously makes the lamest character in the show look lamer by putting her ridiculously overblown ego on display. And I mean no disrespect to Allison Court, who's an amazing performer who has a gift for entertaining and engaging with children, especially as Lunette the Clown on the big comfy couch, a talent that is definitely on display in this episode. I cannot emphasize enough that it's not her fault that Jubilee is just so freaking lame. This is one episode that I do not feel comfortable recommending, and when I rewatch the show, I always skip it. But you know what's the craziest fact about this episode? That it's actually comic book accurate. Sort of. Jubilee's Fairytale Theater is actually a very loose adaptation of Uncanny X-Men number 153, Kitty's Fairy Tale, in which Kitty Pryde, the character that Jubilee replaced in the cartoon, tells Colossus's sister Aliana Rasputin, aka Magic, a bedtime story to comfort her while the X-Men are recovering from an epic battle with the White Queen, aka Emma Frost. The difference between the comic and the animated adaptation is that, unlike Jubilee, Kitty is a vital member of the X-Men team, who is telling Ileana a child-friendly version of one of her actual adventures with the X-Men. Jubilee's story is a completely made up, sad, embarrassing ego trip that is neither charming nor comforting, and it just makes Jubilee look delusional. But hey, no matter how you feel about this episode, never forget that Jubilee will never beat you, but she will allow you to lose. Next time on InepTToons.
And this is for justice.